Today's lesson is Unit 1, Lesson 2, and it is introducing interval notation. So it's probably something new to you, but I'm going to show you it's really not very hard at all. Um, what you have done before is you've seen something like this that says -3 is less than or equal to x is less than 5. And you know that to graph that, you have, oh, I got to get a color. Hold on here. Um, okay. You have a circle on -3 and you have a circle on 5. And the circle on -3 is closed in versus the 5, which is open, because the -3 includes the equal to sign. So everybody in class was able to tell me that, no problem. Okay, and then we knew to shade in between because of the way this was written. Well, the nice thing about interval notation is those two numbers that have the circles on them are the two numbers in your interval notation, and the one that had the equal sign or the one with the closed dot is the one that has the bracket. So I remember it because if I've got this straight line that's on my equal sign, then I'm going to have a straight line as the bracket, and that's the bracket. And if it's not a bracket, then it's parentheses, and that's the open circle, okay, because it does not include that point, okay? If you look at the second one, it says x is greater than 2, so we've gone over here and we put a circle on 2, and greater than, you all know that we shade this way, and generally if you just make an arrow that some sort, either a different arrow or color that one in more, okay? Now, this one seems to be more challenging for people because there's not a second number. We had two numbers here. It was easy to make our interval. So if you think about it on a number line, how far over can you go on this number line? It goes on forever and ever, which y'all know is infinity. Well, that's why that's the second number symbol that's in your infinity, in your interval. Okay? So if you look at number 3, I had them in class. They did it while I quietly worked it. So pause the video right now and then come right back and see what your answer is and see if you got it right. So hopefully from here, when you unpause the video, then it looks like this. So you have a line. Ooh, well, that's not good. You have a line. And then we go back to Joy. All right, and when you put this, you don't have to number all those tick marks for me. You just have to put a 0, and then what side of 0 is 3? So it's on the right side, so I'm going to put a 3. And I, of course, am going to draw a circle around it. And then I'm going to go look and see, okay, it's got an equal sign. If it's equal, that's an extra step that I have to do, and I have to color in that dot. And if the variable is on the left side, then the arrow points to the way you shade. So it's pointing, or the inequality symbol is pointing left. So I'm going to shade to the left. And this is what I said, I need you to make that arrow visibly darker. And so what is it? So we have a 3. Our shading starts over here. Well, what number is all the way over to the left on the number line? Negative infinity. So we go to negative infinity on this side, and we go to 3 on that side. So the 0 is just giving you some bearings. So I have negative infinity to 3, parentheses, because infinity always has parentheses. Think about that curve, and the infinity matches the curve of your parentheses. And 3 has an equal sign, so it's going to have a straight part, and that means it's going to be a bracket. Okay? The other example that I did was number 6. So if I go to number 6, it says x is less than 1 or greater than or equal to 5. So I'm going to draw that line. Oh, good. It's already drawn. Ready to go. And here's my line. And as I said, what do I need to, let me make sure, yep, good. X is less than 1 or greater than 5. So I'm going to put 0. And I'm going to put a 1, and I'm going to put a 5 that's farther away. You wouldn't put it right next to it because they're farther away from 0. And I put a circle, so you're trying to draw it to scale. A circle on the 1 and the 5, And everybody was able to tell me that we close in the 5 because it's equal to. And then we just stayed with that one. Okay, x is greater than, so it goes to the right, because that's the way my inequality symbol is pointing. And then the 1 goes to the left, because that's the way it's pointing. Okay, so both of these have an arrow going to the left and going to the right. So that means when I do my interval, I'm going to have, I don't like that, sorry, negative infinity. Why won't it right? There we go. And positive infinity. So keep in mind, we have two pieces here because I have an or right here. So I'm going to have two intervals. And my first interval to describe this left piece is going to be negative infinity to 1. Infinity always has parentheses. 1 is not closed in, so it's a parentheses. Now, or, the mathematical symbol for or is the U. That's what we use in this notation. It stands for or, and you will always see it with intervals, so you might as well get used to it. And then we start at 5, and we go all the way to infinity. The 5 is closed in, so I'm going to put a bracket. Infinity always has parentheses. Okay? And the next one I'm going to do is number 9. Number 9. So this time I have a graph and I have two pieces, so it's similar to what we just did with number 6. So if we go straight to writing the inequality, we like to start with x, and I'm shading to the left, so it's gonna point that way. X is less than, it's closed in, so it's less than or equal to -1. I have more than one piece, so I have an or, and then I'm gonna have my x, and I'm shading this way, and that's the greater than 2. So that's what we have. So you're probably used to that. That's a little bit easier. But to put it in interval notation, I'm going to remind myself that this is negative infinity and this is positive infinity. And so you're going to bring these numbers just straight down. This is negative infinity to -1. Always a parentheses on that. It's closed in, so I have a bracket. And then union, and then I pick back up at 2, which is open, so it's a parentheses, and then infinity, which is always a parentheses. Okay? And then the last problem we did is on the next page. I need to go to the next page. Turn your paper over. And it's number 14. So number 14 says, I'm going to go with that. All right. Given the graph of f of x below, find on what intervals of x is f of x decreasing and on what intervals of x is f of x positive. So f of x, remember, is the same thing as y. I can't see that one very well, so we need to go a different color. All right, f of x is y. So you're looking at the y values, and you want to know where it's decreasing, okay? And the other thing I pointed out is whenever you answer these questions, these intervals, it says on what intervals of x is y decreasing. So your answer is always the x values of what you're looking at, not the y values. So the easiest thing to do, I'm going to see if I can show you this. No, that's not going to look right. All right, let's go back to this. I was here. Okay, so you're trying to, when you want to figure out where it's decreasing or increasing, put your finger, we read from left to right when we read our sentences. So you start on the left side of your graph and you trace it. Now, if you can see, I'm going to, it's hard for me to trace it because I don't have a little finger. But trace the graph and you should be able to tell that I am going down. And actually, let's do this so you can see it. Okay? If you can tell, when I trace the graph right here, I'm decreasing. And then when I go from here to here, it's increasing. And then when I go from here to here, I'm decreasing. And when I go from there to there, I'm increasing. It only wants the decreasing values. Okay? So since it wants those decreasing values, then I'm going to give the x intervals of where that happens. So if there's an arrow on the end of it, that means that this thing goes on forever and ever and ever. And if it goes on forever and ever, ever, that means that it starts, go back, excuse me. It did something crazy to me. Sorry. Okay, I'm in a normal pen, that size, like that color. So it is negative infinity. All right, how far does it go till it's decreasing? It's decreasing all of this until I get down to this point right here. So what is that x value? That x value is negative 3. Then I have another piece I have to describe, this other highlighted piece. So I'm going to have my u, and then it starts at 0. That is the x value of where it starts decreasing, all the way until x gets right there. So that's to 3. Okay? Now, this next part, they want to know where it's positive or negative. So what you need to remember is this right here is your x-axis. That's x, this is y, and the value of y is 0 on the x-axis. That's where y is 0. So anything above that point has positive y values, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anything below has negative y values, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. So if it's asking for positive values, okay, you can take I might suggest taking your hand and covering up, oopsie, that's not what I want to do. Ah, no, my bad. Come here, and here, and here. All right, let's try that again. And I'm covering up where y is equal to 0. So I'm covering up the bottom of my graph because it's only asking me where the positive is. Okay, so I'm going to take that off, but that's a way for you to determine which values are positive if it's easier for you to see it like that. Okay, so to answer the question, where is it positive? I think you could see once I covered up the bottom of the graph that this whole thing was positive. But there's one key. Is 0 positive or negative? I hope you answered neither one. And for that reason, we cannot include this value or that value in our answer. So I have this same thing in that I go from negative infinity to negative 3 union. Then I have this middle piece, and the middle piece goes from negative 3 to that value, which is 3. And then I have the last one, which is 3 to infinity. If there's an arrow on it, then when you're naming the interval, then it goes on to infinity or to negative infinity. Okay, so that's the end of our interval notation. If you have any questions, please come see me or email me. Thank you very much.